Gotcha. Well, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And I appreciate your insight on that because that was pretty enlightening. And I wanted to go ahead and go back to Dominic. And what else do you got?
Well, the one. Did you see the story in the London Telegraph where they want to bulldoze U.S. cities? Obama has a plan to start bulldozing the cities.
Oh, I haven't. I heard something about it, but why don't you go ahead and tell our listeners real quick.
Yeah. Dozens of U.S. cities may have entire neighborhoods bulldozed as part of a drastic shrink-to-survive proposals being considered by the Obama administration to tackle economic decline. The government looking at expanding a pioneering scheme in Flint, one of the poorest U.S. cities, which involves raising entire districts and returning the land to nature. Local politicians believe the city must contract by as much as 40%, concentrating the dwindling population and local services into a more viable area. Having outlined his strategy to Barack Obama during the election campaign, Mr. Kildee has now been approached by the U.S. government and a group of charities who want him to apply what he has learned to the rest of the country. Mr. Kildee said he will concentrate on 50 cities, identified in a recent study by the Brookings Institution. Now there's a corrupt organization, an influential Washington quote-unquote think tank, as potentially needing to shrink substantially to cope with their declining fortunes. In Detroit, shattered by the woes of the U.S. car industry, there are already plans to split it into a collection of small urban centers separated from each other by countryside. I mean,
crazy. So instead of
is that anything new?
So instead of letting people buy up these empty houses at a reduced rate, and so that we could put people in them, and so they can maintain them and not dilapidate and turn into big piles of junk, he'd rather just bulldoze half the city and start over.
Bulldoze. The common theme I see tonight so far is consolidation, bringing everything either smaller and closer. Because first word in a one-world government, one.
Yep, I agree. And I did see another story about they are proposing doing away with elections altogether and just having Obama as a permanent president. Did you hear that, Dominic?
I haven't seen that one, but I wouldn't be surprised. Listen, the one that really scares me is the rumor of everything that's happening in California. I don't know if you've been paying attention to how much disaster California is in right now, but it's a mess, and that this is all just testing grounds for Arnold. They want to roll Arnold in 2012 to get us the Terminator for life.
Yeah, well, they were talking about Dick Cheney being the forerunner and pick to be the GOP's runner in 2012, and I'm like, doesn't anybody remember, when he was in office, everybody was saying he was the Darth Vader of the administration, and everybody was wishing and complaining. Now, so-called Republicans want to put him right back up there and put him right back in power again. I mean, this is insane, man. I mean, people forget so quick.
Yeah, you ain't going to see that. You're probably going to see Schwarzenegger. Don't be surprised if you see Jeb Bush come in. I don't think they're going to give it to Darth Vader, though, because, I mean, this whole country hates Darth Vader, Even Republicans can't say a good thing about him.
Definitely crazy, man. But
am I still on?
Yeah, go ahead. Now,
hey, that's funny that he just said that about the Arnold Schwarzenegger thing for like 2012. I read this thing back in the day where they were saying like there was like a subliminal meaning in the last Terminator movie that he played in. The name of the Terminator 3 was Rise of the Machines, and they were saying it back then that he, they weren't going to put him in any more Terminator movies, that he got to play in the one that had the most meaning, the Rise of the Machines, and they were going to try to put him in the office in the White House after that.
Wow. So there is some rumor there, I guess, circulating around him maybe running. But wouldn't that be crazy? Because he has direct ties back to Nazi Germany too, as well, doesn't he?
Oh, absolutely. His,
was it?
Go ahead, Dominic.
It was it his father or stepfather was a governor for the Nazis there. His role, I can't think of what it was, but it was like a governor in Austria for the Nazis. So he grew up in the 70s, too. They said he'd throw a lot of parties, and, like, he'd break out the old Hitler albums of Hitler getting speeches, and they'd sit around and get high, and that's what they'd listen to, was Hitler and stuff.
As well, I could add, I was going to say as well, he was a member of the Hitler Youth, documented member of the Hitler Youth, and his favorite flexing pose during his bodybuilding days, and this is also plainly obvious and is admitted, was the pose where he would flex the right bicep and then Sieg Heil with the left, or I'm not sure about which hand, but he would basically Sieg Heil and put the hand up and then also flex with the other, and he stated as a young boy who his main idol was or influence up, and it was Adolf Hitler. In fact, there's photos, you can Google it, there's photos of him as a child with a portrait of Adolf Hitler on his wall, and was definitely a member of the Hitler Youth as well. I believe it was his father was an SS officer as well.
Wow. And I have seen that pose. I mean, that's a real famous pose of Arnold with his arm up like that, almost doing the Heil Hitler.
No coincidence.
It's definitely very strange. And I do not want to see him running this country for sure. I mean, I thought he was a great actor in a couple of his movies, but when you're playing a heartless machine, and you are pretty much a heartless guy, I think that I don't know, man. I don't like him personally, but I thought he was pretty good as a Terminator, but definitely crazy. Well, hey, man, we want to really, Dominic, we really appreciate you coming on and bringing the stories this week. Is there anything else you want to touch on real quick before we end the segment?
It's good for me, brother.